and we completely forgot about that. That's exactly what we told the police too. We go, look,
approaches that they do. So everybody does something different.
She just walked in the door and said, "Hey, like, I'm back." Like, if you have to choose between arresting
common
somebody
scamming technique is basically give us some money. Usually it ranges between 3 and 6,000.
Fortunately, we actually trusted her and we didn't install any parental control.
They're doing a lot. It's just that we do not know where to focus.
It was a morning like any other in the quiet suburbs of Seattle. The sun peeked hesitantly over the horizon, casting golden light through partially drawn curtains. Alisa Petro, a vibrant 15-year-old girl with an infectious smile, was getting ready for the day ahead. But this morning, something invisible had already shifted, a silent storm gathering in the shadows. The house was eerily still. The scent of brewed coffee lingered in the kitchen, but the usual bustle was absent. Alisa's bedroom door stood slightly ajar, her favorite jacket tossed carelessly over the chair. On the nightstand lay her phone, untouched, alive with notifications she would never see. Her mother, Rachel, called out to her, "Alisa, breakfast's ready." But no response came. Minutes later, Rachel found the house empty. At first, nobody panicked. Maybe she had gone for a walk or to a friend's house. But as the morning stretched on, unease took root. Calls to friends went unanswered. Her social media accounts showed no activity, no clue. Hours passed. Darkness crept in. Alisa was gone. Detectives arrived, their faces grim but determined. Missing person cases in Seattle were not rare, but everyone held its own unique horror. Alisa's disappearance was particularly baffling. There was no sign of forced entry, no ransom note, no demands, no clear motive, nothing but a haunting silence. Detective Mark Reynolds, a seasoned investigator with over 20 years on the force, later described the case as one of the most puzzling disappearances he'd ever seen. Rachel Petro, Alisa's mother, spoke with a trembling voice. "She never gave me a reason to worry. She was careful, smart. If something had been wrong, she would have told me. She would have asked for help." Her father, Michael, struggled to keep his composure. "We've checked everywhere. Her friends, the places she liked to go. No one has seen or heard from her." As news spread, a digital frenzy erupted. The hashtag #FindAlisaPetro trended nationwide. Strangers offered prayers, shared sightings, theories, wild rumors. But with every hopeful lead came crushing disappointment. The internet became a double-edged sword, amplifying awareness, but also spreading misinformation and fear. In that quiet room, shadows lengthened. Time became an enemy. Every tick of the clock echoed with growing dread. Could she be safe somewhere? Trapped or hiding? Or was this a nightmare slowly unfolding into reality? No one could say. The search had only just begun. To understand what happened, one must first understand Alisa Petro, the girl who vanished. Bright, curious, and fiercely independent, Alisa was a talented student with dreams of becoming a graphic designer. She loved music, skateboarding, and was fiercely loyal to her close circle of friends. Yet beneath her cheerful exterior, she carried the secret struggles of adolescence, moments of loneliness, the pressure to fit in, and the stirrings of a world that sometimes felt too big, too confusing. Her disappearance tore apart the delicate threads of this world. The police combed through Alisa's phone records, searching for unusual contacts or messages. Surveillance footage from nearby streets was reviewed frame by frame. Witnesses were interviewed. Each lead was a glimmer of hope, or a dead end. One neighbor reported seeing a dark sedan parked near the Petro house the previous night. Another claimed a suspicious figure lurking near the park where Alisa often skateboarded. These reports sent investigators chasing shadows. As days turned into a week, the community's hope began to wane. The police feared the worst. But somewhere, deep in the tangled web of mystery, answers waited. Answers that would expose secrets darker than anyone imagined. Alisa Petro had vanished without a word, but the silence was about to be shattered. The house felt hollow now. Each room, once filled with laughter and life, echoed with unanswered questions. The kitchen table, cluttered with half-finished homework and empty coffee mugs, bore silent witness to the day Alisa disappeared. Her laptop sat closed, untouched since the morning. The faint smell of her favorite vanilla shampoo still lingered in the air, a ghost of normalcy amid growing chaos. Rachel sat on the worn couch, clutching Alisa's favorite blanket, her eyes red-rimmed and glassy. I keep telling myself, she's coming back, that it's all a nightmare. But deep down, I'm terrified. Her voice broke, the raw weight of a mother's fears spilling into the stillness. Detective Reynolds knew the clock was ticking. Every hour that passed diminished the chances of finding Alisa safe. He walked the quiet streets, retracing her last known movements. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward some dark secret. He paused near the small skate park, where Alisa had often spent afternoons. The empty ramps and graffiti-streaked benches stood as silent reminders of a girl who was no longer there. "We have to find her," Reynolds muttered under his breath, a mantra etched with desperation. Just days before she vanished, Alisa had been like any other teenager, texting friends, scrolling through social media, sharing music playlists. But beneath those everyday moments, something was shifting. Unbeknownst to her family, Alisa had begun receiving messages from an unknown, online contact. At first they seemed harmless, a casual hello, a compliment, but the tone grew darker, more insistent. A predator was slowly weaving a web of manipulation, using charm and threats to isolate her from the people who loved her. Back at the Petro residence, forensic experts combed the scene for clues. Every fingerprint, every fiber, every digital footprint was analyzed with painstaking care. They found no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no evidence of abduction in the traditional sense. Theories multiplied. Had Alisa walked away? Was she lured? Or had someone she knew betrayed her trust? Detective Reynolds stared at the evidence board, pins and photos forming a map of uncertainty. "This isn't random," he said quietly. "This is calculated." As news of Alisa's disappearance spread, the community rallied. A candlelight vigil illuminated the night, hundreds gathering to honor a girl lost to shadows. Strangers embraced, tears flowing freely, united by grief and hope. "Please, if anyone knows anything at all, come forward," Rachel pleaded from the makeshift stage. "Help us bring Alisa home." The crowd's murmurs echoed into the night, a collective prayer against an unforgiving darkness. What was Alisa thinking in those final moments? Fear? Confusion? Hope? The teenage mind is a labyrinth of innocence and awakening dangers, a fragile place where trust can be shattered in an instant. Grooming tactics prey on vulnerability, exploiting a young person's desire for acceptance and love. Alisa's story, though uniquely tragic, is heartbreakingly common. In the precinct, officers worked through the night. Phone records revealed a series of deleted messages, recently wiped from Alisa's device. Cyber specialists traced IP addresses, but many led to dead ends or anonymized servers. The digital trail was fragmented, like pieces of a shattered mirror reflecting a nightmare. No one wanted to see unbeknownst to the family. Someone was watching. Hidden in the shadows, eyes tracked every movement. Was this the predator? An accomplice? Or a victim themselves, caught in a twisted game? The pieces of the puzzle were scattered, but the picture was becoming clearer. Dark forces at play, lurking, just beneath the surface. The first week passed with no sign of Alisa. Each moment stretched into eternity, each unanswered call a dagger to the heart. But the silence was not empty. It was waiting. Waiting for the truth to break free, for justice to ignite, for a community to rise. Alisa Petro had vanished without a word. But the story was far from over as dawn crept over the sleepy neighborhood. The Petro family sat huddled in the living room, their faces etched with exhaustion and raw fear. Each ring of the phone sent jolts of hope, or dread, racing through their veins. But the calls brought no answers, only questions. Rachel's gaze drifted toward the front door, as if willing Alisa to walk through it any second, like she had so many times before. The hours since her disappearance had felt like a lifetime. Reynolds sat before the grainy images flickering on his screen. The security camera from a nearby convenience store captured a figure, too distant to identify, walking briskly along the sidewalk near the Petro home on the evening Alisa vanished. He zoomed in, sharpening the image, searching for a clue, a face, a distinctive movement, a flash of color. But the figure's identity remained obscured, swallowed by the city's shadows. Inside the forensic lab, experts worked tirelessly, peeling back the layers of Alisa's digital life. Messages deleted from her phone were recovered piece by piece, like fragile fragments of a broken diary. One conversation stood out, a chilling exchange with an unknown contact. The tone shifted from casual to urgent, pleading, even threatening. "Don't tell anyone. You're safe with me, but if you try to run, you'll regret it." The words sent a shiver through the team. This wasn't just a missing teen story. It was a dangerous game of control and manipulation. At school, whispers spread like wildfire. "Did you see her the day she disappeared? She seemed scared. She said she didn't want to talk about it." Her closest friends recounted odd messages, sudden changes in behavior, a smile that no longer reached her eyes. It was a cry for help nobody had recognized until it was too late. Inside were hundreds of chat logs, dozens of usernames, and more than 14 minors, all girls, all aged 12 to 17. Each with a code name. Each with folders of screenshots, voice messages, and sickening compliance contracts. Written messages from the girls promising to do whatever he asked to avoid public humiliation. One of the code names? Lunabelle 07. Alisa Rachel slammed the report down in front of detectives. "You knew this name a week ago," she said. "Why didn't you act?" The detective sighed, looking broken. "We had no warrant, no confirmed identity. And we didn't want to scare him underground." Rachel's voice cracked. "He's already there. My daughter's gone. And now he is too." Silence. It was the system's worst failing. By trying not to lose the predator, they lost the girl. Her final ping came from an industrial zone on the outskirts of Modesto, California. A truck yard. Security footage was grainy, but one frame showed her, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big, hair tucked in a cap, climbing into the passenger seat of a delivery van. The driver's face? Unclear, but the timestamp confirmed it. It was Alisa, alive, leaving voluntarily, and possibly being trafficked across state lines. With the footage, everything changed. The case was now a federal matter. Amber Alert status was elevated. Borders were notified. Truck routes were examined. Alisa was officially labeled as a victim of online grooming and suspected interstate trafficking. Rachel fell apart when she heard the word trafficking, no longer just missing, now potentially sold. The game was no longer just about finding a girl. It was about exposing a network, breaking open an industry built on lies, encryption, and silence. Alisa Petro wasn't the first, she wasn't the only, but she still might be saved, if they moved fast enough, if the trail stayed warm, if time didn't run out. The van that took Alisa Petro vanished down a stretch of cracked asphalt just outside Modesto. One camera caught it. One moment. And then, nothing. No plates, no trackers, just a 15-year-old girl, swallowed whole by the digital age's darkest secret. Because this wasn't a kidnapping. This wasn't just one predator. This was a network, and Alisa was now inside it. At the FBI's cybercrime division in Quantico, a special task force was assembled. Agents stared at glowing monitors, eyes red from too many hours logged inside the internet's underbelly. Their target. The Lantern Ring. That's what they called it. An encrypted community on the dark web, linked to at least 23 known grooming operations across 7 U.S. states. The users were anonymous. The servers were bulletproof. And yet, inside the Lantern Ring forums, a familiar image had surfaced. A low-res photo. Alisa Petro, hooded, eyes down, sitting in a warehouse-like room. Behind her, a mattress, a camera, a curtain. The caption? New asset, ready soon. When the FBI briefed Rachel, she didn't speak. She just stared. The words came like broken glass. Asset. Distribution ring. Controlled environment. Probable grooming to production. Transition. They meant she's still alive, but she's not safe, not even close. Rachel fell to her knees. "Bring her home," she whispered. "Please, bring my baby home." Agents launched a deep undercover sting. They built synthetic identities, plausible profiles, using dark web language and pre-established credit on predator forums. One alias finally gained access to Lantern Ring's Tier 2 channels. Inside, what they found was a structured system. Spotters recruited vulnerable teens online. Handlers lured them to safe houses. Movers transferred them across state lines. And distributors, the most depraved of all, streamed and sold content to encrypted buyers. Each asset was assigned a code. Alisa's. Skies 04. The network moved girls like contraband. They used shell delivery companies, empty containers, secret compartments in RVs. Every transfer included 3 things: a decoy, a real handler, a burner phone pinging false GPS data. One agent described it as the Amazon of human exploitation, and Alisa, she was last tracked moving eastbound toward Nevada. The clock was ticking. Alisa hadn't yet been listed, but her name had appeared in disturbing chatter. Phrases like, "new girl being tested," "silent," "small," "scared," "won't last long if she won't obey." The FBI knew what that meant. They had days, maybe hours, to intercept her before she disappeared into the deeper levels of the ring, what traffickers call the Gray Hall. No names, no IDs, just endless captivity. Back in Modesto, a maintenance worker found a charred phone under a dumpster near the truck depot. Forensics barely recovered the data, but one message stood out, sent just hours after Alisa vanished. Skies 04 inbound, ETA 8HRs, keep her quiet. The number traced to a burner linked to Colton Durner, the man behind the username Midnight Muse. He wasn't just her groomer, he was her handler, and now he was running. A gas station camera caught him. 3 days after Alisa vanished. Shaved beard, dyed hair, but still him, and behind him in the video, a van. Same model, same scratches, Nevada plates. Registered to a fake company, Sky Shipping LLC. The word Sky again. Coincidence? No. It was branding. Alisa wasn't missing. She was cataloged. The FBI and local law enforcement launched a covert sting. Target, an unlicensed studio warehouse in the outskirts of Las Vegas, flagged by heat signatures and unusual electric usage. At night, it was barricaded, soundproofed, monitored by CCTV. When agents moved in at 3:14 a.m., they were ready for resistance. But what they found was worse. The studio was empty, abandoned, just mattresses, cameras, and walls covered in chalk tally marks. What of them? Girls. No names, no signs of Alisa, just a smeared word and marker on the floor. Sky. Days later, Rachel opened her mailbox and screamed. Inside was a plain brown envelope. No return address, just a single Polaroid. Alisa. Eyes open, bruised, a gag around her mouth. She was holding a newspaper. The date was 2 days old. She was alive, and someone wanted them to know it, to taunt them with it, to sell her time. News outlets ran with it. Alisa Petro still alive. FBI expands operation. Protesters gathered outside police headquarters. Online forums exploded with hashtags. Find Alisa Petro. Sky 04. End the ring. The world was watching. But the predators? They were adapting. Each minute, the story spread. The deeper the ring went underground. Alisa's photo was the spark, but she was still in the fire. One girl. One network. One ticking clock. The predators were always one step ahead, but now, so were the agents. It wasn't about surveillance anymore. It was about confrontation, about infiltration, about breaking the ring before it broke Alisa. Because the next video that surfaced might not just be a photo, and if they failed, again, Alisa Petro would become just another number, another tally mark on a studio wall. Las Vegas faded behind them, the cameras, the noise, the fury. For Rachel Petro, it no longer mattered. Her daughter was out there, alive, but still in the grip of monsters. And somewhere beyond the desert, behind anonymous usernames and encrypted signals, was the place they kept her. Place designed to erase people like Alisa, erase their names, their voices, their pasts, until all that's left is the footage. and the price tag. The FBI called it Operation Horizon, a nationwide offensive targeting all known associates of the Lantern Ring. Cyber agents in Quantico cracked through firewall after firewall, assisted by AI tools, behavioral analysis, and tracer bots designed to mimic human predators. Names surfaced, aliases connected, old burner phones pinged, and then, a breakthrough. In a secluded stretch of land in Ely, Nevada, surveillance drones caught movement, a heat signature, a van, not parked, not idling, burying something. Agents moved fast. They didn't ask for permission. They breached at 4:02 a.m. The property, an abandoned mining site, closed since 1994. Deeded under an alias tied to a defunct LLC once registered in Phoenix. The layout was simple. One main cabin, 2 storage sheds, a solar array, and a hatch. Steel. Locked from the inside, they heard nothing, not even breathing. When they forced it open, they stepped into hell. No lights, just infrared. A staircase led down 40 feet to a tunnel system, converted storage units buried underground. Inside, the air was thick, mold, blood, gasoline. In the corner of the second unit, a cage. Inside it, curled into herself, was Alisa Petro. She didn't scream. She didn't speak. She just stared at the light pouring in from the breach. Her face was swollen, her hair hacked short. Her wrists, bound in zip ties, now cut open. She had survived, but she hadn't escaped. Not yet. Paramedics confirmed she was stable, malnourished, dehydrated, drugged, but no life-threatening injuries. Alisa was flown by medevac to a secure trauma hospital in Reno. She was conscious but nonverbal. Psychologists called it dissociative shutdown. Her brain had pulled her away to protect her. When asked her name, she didn't answer. When shown a picture of her mother, she turned away. When asked what they did to her, she cried. But no sound came out. When Alisa Petro stepped into the hospital room, she didn't recognize the girl in the bed. Not at first. Pale, skeletal, eyes locked on the corner of the ceiling like she was still watching for a lens. Rachel sat beside her, didn't speak, just placed her hand on her daughter's. Alisa flinched. Then, after almost 5 minutes, she moved, just slightly. She tilted her head, met Rachel's eyes, and whispered one word. Home? Rachel collapsed into her arms. Yes, she sobbed. I swear to God, yes. The media swarmed the hospital. Protesters called for heads to roll. Congress issued statements. In a month, the FBI made 37 arrests tied directly to the Lantern. Ring 9 were in law enforcement. 3 were registered sex offenders who'd reoffended under new names. And 1, Colton Durner, the man who groomed Alisa, was captured trying to flee the country from a private airfield in Arizona. He was wearing a hoodie with a stitched phrase across the chest. I'll never be caught. He didn't resist, he just smiled. The FBI expected silence. Instead, Durner talked, smug, calm, controlled. He claimed Alisa came willingly. She wanted to be loved. She was one of hundreds. Then he added, you stopped one stream. There are thousands. Still live. And the worst part? He wasn't lying. Weeks passed. Alisa started speaking again. Not in full sentences, but in fragments. Basement, no windows. Every night, lights on. He said I had to smile. He watched, always watched. Psychologists worked gently, layer by layer. They explained she had been conditioned, not just abused, reprogrammed. It would take years to untangle, maybe a lifetime. But Alisa wasn't alone. She had her mother. She had a name again. And for the first time in 96 days, she had a door that locked from the inside. In the fall of 2025, United States versus Colton Durner began in federal court. The prosecution played recovered footage, found deep in encrypted Lantern Ring archives, clips too horrifying for the public. Alisa didn't testify. She didn't have to. The images said enough. Durner was convicted on 42 counts of trafficking, production, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 9 consecutive life terms. He showed no remorse. He just winked as he was escorted out. A monster. Unrepentant, but caged. Alisa Petro spoke at sentencing. She stood before the courtroom, voice steady, hands shaking. You took my daughter's voice, her safety, her future. But you didn't take her soul. You failed, Mr. Derner. She survived. The gallery wept. The judge nodded. And behind the glass, Alisa watched quietly. She didn't cry. She didn't blink. She just mouthed 3 silent words. I am free. Alisa Petro was rescued. But thousands more remain unseen, groomed online. Bought and sold every second, every country, every screen. This case broke the silence, but the darkness still breathes. And somewhere, beyond firewalls and fake profiles, another child is logging in, and another predator is waiting. The headlines faded. The court case ended. The lights of the 24-hour news cycle turned to something else. But for Alisa Petro, the real battle had just begun. Because the monsters she escaped didn't vanish when the cage was opened. They had moved into her memory, her skin, her dreams. Alisa came home to a different house. Rachel moved them to a new place outside Henderson, away from reporters and old memories. The curtains stayed drawn for weeks. She couldn't sleep without a nightlight. She couldn't walk into a room unless the door was open wide. Every knock at the door made her flinch. Every man's voice made her freeze. Therapy became her lifeline. Twice a week, then 3, with a team specializing in complex trauma and sexual exploitation survivors. They worked with EMDR, trauma release, yoga, narrative therapy. But no matter the tool, every session came down to a single truth. Alisa had been broken into pieces, and only she could put them back together. She began drawing again. Not faces, not flowers, just doors. Thousands of them. Some closed, some wide open, some cracked with shadows behind them. One picture stood out, a single door with dozens of locks. Underneath, in her careful handwriting, none of them worked. Not everyone believed her. Online, the trolls came. She ran, away on purpose. She was looking for attention. How do you get kidnapped in 2025? The cruelty was casual, dismissive. Some even blamed Rachel, said she was negligent, said it was her fault. Rachel didn't respond. But at night she cried quietly into the pillow next to her daughters. Guilt wrapped around her like barbed wire. I should have seen it. I should have stopped it. I left the laptop open. 1 year after Alisa's rescue, Rachel started a foundation, Project Horizon. Its mission: teach parents the signs of online grooming, push for tougher laws on encrypted trafficking platforms, support survivors who don't get headlines. They hosted seminars, created resources, opened a survivor network. Alisa never appeared at the events, but she watched from the back, hood up, hands folded, silent, until one day, she didn't. 2 years later, in front of a crowd of 800 at a survivors symposium. In Seattle, a 16-year-old girl stepped up to the microphone. She shook, she stammered, but she spoke. My name is Alisa Petro. I was taken, but I'm here. She read from a note, described the grooming, the isolation, the shame, and the decision to fight for her life in the dark. Not because she thought someone would come, but because she refused to be forgotten. I don't want to be remembered for what they did to me. I want to be remembered for walking out, alive. The crowd gave her a standing ovation. Rachel wept in the front row. The Alisa Petro case led to real change. The Federal Anti-Grooming Act of 2026 made digital luring across state lines a standalone felony. End-to-end encrypted platforms were forced to comply with new mandates on reporting CSM. School districts across the U.S. introduced mandatory cyber safety curriculum starting in 5th grade. But it wasn't enough. Alisa knew it. So did Rachel. Because while the system now had more fences, the wolves still knew how to dig. In a journal found after Rachel gave her final speech at Congress, she wrote, I know she'll never be the girl she was, but she's building someone new. And this version scares them more than anything. Because she isn't afraid anymore. At 18, Alisa posted her first public video. No makeup, no edits. Just her face, clear, calm, unapologetic. She looked into the lens and said, "To every girl who thinks no one's coming, I see you. And I swear, we are." They didn't win. I did. The Alisa Petro case will never be just another headline. Because it isn't just a story about abduction. It's about systems that fail, families who fight, and survivors who don't just endure. They transform. The monsters are real. But so are the girls who come back from hell. And when they speak, the world listens. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Thousands of children are still being groomed, lured, and silenced in the darkest corners of the internet, right now. But there is hope. You can be a part of it. Support survivor-led organizations like Project Horizon. Share this video. Start the conversation. Educate yourself and your community. And most importantly, believe survivors. If you or someone you know is in danger, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text "Be Free" to 233733. Help is real. You are not alone. For links and more information, check the description below, because when we stop looking away, we start saving lives.